This was supposed to be the happiest day. Then it happened. The warm Lagos sun beat down on my car as I sat in the parking lot, my hands trembling as they gripped my phone. The words of my boss, Mr. Okonkwo, still echoed in my ears, each syllable a hammer blow to my chest. Chukwuma, I'm so sorry. The company is undergoing restructuring, and we have to let you go. Today is your last day. I stared at the screen, willing the message to disappear, to be nothing more than a cruel joke. But it remained, stark and unyielding, a digital harbinger of my new reality. My throat constricted, and I could feel my heart pounding against my ribcage like a caged animal desperate for escape. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead, despite the sweltering heat outside. Today, of all days, the day my little boy, my pride and joy, turned 5, I clenched my fists against the steering wheel, my knuckles turning white with the pressure. This couldn't be happening. The timing was too cruel, too perfect in its devastation. How would I tell Amaka? How would I provide for my family? My dreams, my stability, all yanked away like a rug beneath my feet, leaving me sprawling in a void of uncertainty. The irony of it all stung like salt on an open wound. Just this morning, Amaka and I had been planning Chima's birthday celebration, our voices filled with excitement as we discussed the cake, the little park outing, and how thrilled our son was. Now here I sat, jobless and adrift, the weight of my family's future pressing down on me like a physical force. With a deep breath that did little to calm my racing thoughts, I started the car and began the drive home. The streets of Lagos passed by in a blur, the usual cacophony of horns and street vendors muted by the roaring in my ears. I barely registered the familiar landmarks, the bustling Balogun Market, the imposing National Theater, the ever-present traffic on 3rd Mainland Bridge. My mind was elsewhere, frantically trying to piece together a plan, to find some way to salvage this disaster. As I turned onto our street, the sight of our modest bungalow came into view. The bright decorations on our front porch greeted me mockingly, colorful balloons swaying in the breeze, a hand-painted banner proclaiming, "Happy 5th birthday, Chima," in cheerful letters. It was a stark reminder of the joy I should have been feeling, the celebration that awaited inside. I parked the car and sat for a moment, gathering my composure. I couldn't let Chima see my distress, not today. With a Herculean effort, I plastered a smile on my face and stepped out of the car. The moment I opened the front door, a small whirlwind of energy crashed into my legs. "Daddy, Daddy, you're home early!" Chima squealed in delight, his gap-toothed grin beaming up at me. I scooped him up into my arms, holding him tightly against my chest. I inhaled deeply, taking in the innocent scent of baby powder and mischief that was uniquely Chima. "Yes, my champ, I'm home," I managed to say, my voice only slightly strained. Over Chima's shoulder, I caught Amaka's eyes. My beautiful wife, always so perceptive, immediately sensed something was amiss. Her brow furrowed slightly, a question forming on her lips. I shook my head minutely, silently communicating that we would talk later. Not now. Not on our son's special day. The next few hours passed in a surreal blur, our small living room filled with the sounds of children's laughter as Chima's cousins arrived. The air was thick with the scent of jollof rice and the sweet aroma of birthday cake. I moved through the celebration on autopilot, my smile fixed in place as I helped serve food, organized games, and watched Chima blow out his candles. "Make a wish, my love," Amaka said, her hand resting gently on Chima's shoulder. Our son screwed his eyes shut, his little face a mask of concentration, before he leaned forward and extinguished the dancing flames with one mighty puff. The room erupted in cheers and applause, and I clapped along, trying to ignore the voice in my head that whispered, "What right do you have to celebrate when you can't even provide for your family?" As the party wound down and guests began to leave, I found myself sitting on the couch, watching Chima play with his new toys. Amaka sat beside me, her hand finding mine and squeezing gently. "What is it, Chukwuma?" she asked softly, her voice barely audible over the sounds of childish glee. "What's wrong?" I turned to her, seeing the concern etched on her beautiful face. How could I burden her with this? How could I shatter the joy of this day? But I knew I had to. We were partners after all. We had vowed to face life's challenges together. "Later," I whispered, forcing a smile. "We'll talk when Chima's asleep." Night had fallen by the time we tucked an exhausted but happy Chima into bed. As I kissed his forehead, my heart clenched with a mixture of love and fear. What kind of future could I offer him now? Amaka and I retreated to our bedroom, the festive atmosphere of earlier replaced by a heavy silence. I sat on the edge of the bed, my head in my hands, as Amaka waited patiently for me to speak. Finally, I looked up, meeting her worried gaze. "I lost my job today," I said, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. Amaka inhaled sharply but said nothing, allowing me to continue. "The company is restructuring and they had to cut my position. I don't know what we'll do, Amaka. We have rent, Chima's school fees, bills." My voice cracked and I felt the sting of tears in my eyes. "I feel like I failed you, failed our family." Amaka moved closer, taking my hands in hers. Her touch was warm, comforting, a lifeline in the storm of my emotions. "Chukwuma, look at me," she said firmly. I raised my eyes to meet hers, surprised by the fierce determination I saw there. "You have not failed us," she said, her voice steady and sure. "We will figure this out together. You are more than your job. You are a wonderful father, a loving husband, and a good man. We've faced challenges before and we'll face this one too." I wanted to believe her, to draw strength from her unwavering faith in me. But doubt clouded my mind, whispering insidiously of unpaid bills and an uncertain future. Sleep eluded me that night. I tossed and turned, my mind a whirlwind of worry and self-recrimination. By the time the first rays of sunlight crept through our curtains, I felt as though I hadn't slept at all. I dragged myself out of bed, careful not to wake Amaka, and made my way to the living room. The remnants of yesterday's celebration were still visible. A stray balloon here, a forgotten party hat there. I sank onto the couch, opening my laptop to begin the daunting task of job hunting. As I scrolled through job listings, each one seeming more unattainable than the last, I heard the patter of small feet. Chima appeared in the doorway, his hair tousled from sleep, clutching his favorite stuffed lion. "Daddy?" he said, his voice small and uncertain. I forced a smile. "Good morning, champ. Did you sleep well?" He nodded, then hesitated before speaking again. "Daddy, can we go to the park today? You promised yesterday, remember?" I felt a pang in my chest. With everything that had happened, I had completely forgotten about the promised trip to the park. My first instinct was to say no, to explain that Daddy had important work to do. But as I looked at Chima's hopeful face, I realized that this was exactly what I needed, a reminder of what truly mattered. "Of course, champ," I said, my smile becoming genuine. "Let's go to the park." The local park was bustling with activity as Chima and I arrived. Children laughed and shouted as they chased each other across the grass, while parents chatted on benches or pushed swings. I watched as Chima ran off to join a group of kids on the playground, his face alight with joy. As I sat on a nearby bench, a man in a crisp suit took a seat beside me. He looked to be in his mid-50s, his salt and pepper hair neatly combed, but there was something in his expression that spoke of weariness. "Tough day?" he asked, his eyes following my gaze to where Chima was climbing the jungle gym. I chuckled bitterly. "You could say that. Lost my job yesterday, trying to figure out what's next." The man nodded, a look of understanding crossing his face. "I know that feeling," he said. "I was in your shoes a few years ago. But you know what? Losing my job was the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to chase my real dreams." I turned to him, curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" He smiled, a faraway look in his eyes. "I had always wanted to start my own business, but I was too comfortable in my corporate job to take the risk. When I was laid off, I had no choice but to take a leap of faith. It wasn't easy, but it was the best decision I ever made." His words struck a chord deep within me. I had harbored dreams of running my own marketing consultancy for years, but had always pushed them aside, telling myself it was too risky, too uncertain. But now, with my comfortable corporate job gone, what did I have to lose? "How did you do it?" I asked, leaning forward. "Where did you even start?" The man, who introduced himself as Mr. Adebayo, spent the next hour sharing his story with me. He talked about the challenges he faced, the sleepless nights, the moments of doubt, but he also spoke of the exhilaration of landing his first client, the satisfaction of building something from the ground up, the freedom to shape his own destiny. As Chima ran back to me, tired but happy from his play, I felt a spark of hope ignite in my chest. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end. maybe it was a beginning. That night, after Chima was tucked into bed, I sat down with Amaka at our small kitchen table. The events of the day had given me a new perspective, and I was eager to share my thoughts with her. "What if I start my own business?" I said, the words tumbling out in a rush. Amaka's eyes widened in surprise, then her face lit up with a smile that warmed my heart. "I think that's a great idea, Chukwuma," she said, reaching across the table to take my hand. "You've always talked about wanting to run your own consultancy. Maybe this is the push you needed." Her enthusiasm bolstered my confidence. We spent hours that night discussing possibilities, brainstorming ideas, and making plans. It wouldn't be easy, we knew that. There would be challenges and setbacks, but together we felt ready to face them. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into building my business. I reached out to old contacts, networked at industry events, and spent countless hours perfecting my business plan. Amaka was my rock through it all, offering encouragement when I felt discouraged and celebrating every small victory. There were moments of doubt, of course, nights when I lay awake, wondering if I had made a terrible mistake. Days when it seemed like nothing was going right. But then I would look at Chima, remember the joy on his face at the park, and find the strength to keep pushing forward. Slowly but surely, my hard work began to pay off. I landed my first client, a small local business looking to improve their digital marketing strategy. The project was small, but it was a start. I poured my heart and soul into it, determined to prove myself. Word began to spread. One client became 2, then 3. I found myself working longer hours than I ever had at my corporate job, but the work was fulfilling in a way I had never experienced before. I was building something of my own, creating value not just for myself, but for my clients as well. As my business grew, I made sure to maintain a balance between work and family. I remembered the words Chima had spoken on his birthday, that having me home was the best gift. I made it a point to be present for dinner every night, to make time for weekend outings with Amaka and Chima. One evening, about 6 months after I had lost my job, I was working on a proposal in our living room when Chima climbed onto my lap. He looked up at me with his big, innocent eyes and said, "Daddy, my birthday was the best day ever." Surprised, I asked him why. "Because you spent the whole day with me," he replied simply. Tears filled my eyes as I hugged him tightly. In that moment, I realized something profound. My job didn't define me. My worth wasn't in a paycheck or a fancy title. It was in the love of my family, in the moments that truly mattered. As the months turned into a year, my business continued to flourish. I had built a reputation for innovative strategies and personalized service, and clients were now coming to me through referrals. Financial stability returned to our household, but more importantly, I found a deep sense of fulfillment in my work. One evening, as I tucked Chima into bed, he looked up at me with a serious expression. "Daddy," he said, "when I grow up, I want to work like you." I chuckled, touched by his words. "Oh, and what do you think I do?" He grinned, his gap-toothed smile melting my heart. "You help people, and you always have time for me." Those words solidified everything for me. Losing my job had seemed like the end of the world at the time, but in reality, it had been a new beginning. I had learned resilience, discovered my true potential, and most importantly, deepened my bond with my family. Looking back on that fateful day, the day I lost my job on my son's birthday, I realize now that it wasn't the catastrophe it had seemed. It was a catalyst for change, a push towards a life more aligned with my true values and aspirations. The journey hasn't been easy. There have been challenges and setbacks along the way, but with each obstacle overcome, I've grown stronger, more confident in my abilities and my choices. I've learned valuable lessons about resilience, about the importance of family support, and about the power of pursuing one's dreams. I've discovered strengths I never knew I had, and found joy in building something of my own. Most importantly, I've realized that true success isn't measured by a job title or a salary. It's measured by the impact we have on others, by the love we share with our families, and by the personal growth we achieve along the way. That day, which I once thought I would remember with bitterness, has become a day I celebrate. It marks not just my son's birthday, but also the birth of a new chapter in my life. A chapter filled with challenges, yes, but also with unprecedented opportunities for growth and happiness. And that is why I will never forget it. Not as the day my world crumbled, but as the day a new, better world began to take shape. A world where I am not just an employee, but an entrepreneur. Not just a provider, but a present and engaged father. Not just surviving, but truly living. As I sit here now, watching Chima play in our backyard, Amaka by my side, I feel a profound sense of gratitude for the challenges that pushed me to grow, for the family that supported me through it all, and for the unexpected blessings that can arise from life's most difficult moments. The day I lost my job on my son's birthday will forever be etched in my memory, not as an ending, but as a beginning. The beginning of a journey that taught me the true meaning of success, resilience, and happiness. And for that, I am eternally grateful. Till next time.